What if I told you you didn't have to scale your coaching business? I know that sounds really weird coming from a guy who mentors other coaches in their businesses for a living, but what if that was the case? I think coaches these days are sold a false bill of goods that they need to build this business and scale it as big as they can get it, when in reality, most people don't want that, and they don't want the life that comes along with a business like that. If you're new to the channel, my name is Paul Oneid. I'm the head coach at Master Athletic Performance, and I'm the lead educator and founder at Coach's Corner University. I've been a top 10 all-time powerlifter in 2 different weight classes, a mediocre bodybuilder, and now a pretty terrible endurance athlete. But I'm always in search of doing hard things, and I'm trying to leave a legacy of impact on this fitness industry and leave it in a better place than I found it. And that really comes down to the crux of this video. I see it very often that coaches will start businesses and start saying yes to every opportunity that comes their way, start adding more work to their plate, and they're trying to build this business that will get to 10K a month, 20K a month, or even they are sold on the fact that they should be making $100,000 a month. Very rarely do they stop and ask themselves, what kind of business do I want to build? What kind of life do I want to live? And those two questions are the most important questions to ask yourself when you're starting out your business, because that's what's going to determine the runway or action plan that you choose to build it moving forward. I like to look at this in a very simple frame. The difference between sliding and deciding. When you're sliding, you haven't made a commitment to anything. You're keeping your options open. And while that can be beneficial in some aspects, you end up saying yes to things you might otherwise say no to, and you end up moving along at a pace or on a trajectory that you haven't committed to. Take, for example, the guy who starts dating a girl, and they start dating, they start going out. All of a sudden his lease runs out. Oh, maybe we should move in with each other. Oh, we've been with each other so long, might as well get engaged. Oh, we've been engaged for a couple of years, let's get married. Been married, let's have kids. Turn around 10 years down the line and you're like, I didn't want any of this, and here I am unhappy. The same thing happens with people in their businesses. I was speaking to a coach recently who's built a business where he has a very successful business, mind you, in terms of revenue generation, but he has a team of assistant coaches and he has a sales team. And his sales team only gets paid when they sell coaching, but he only has so many coaches and roster spots. So if he fills his roster spots, he can't pay his sales team. If his sales team sells too much, he doesn't have enough coaches to accommodate the load. So he's built a business that he's beholden to, and he's sitting there questioning, what have I done? He slid into that position. Now, deciding requires commitment. It requires an understanding of the things that you want and the things that are required to do in order to get there. You commit to every step along the way. And while it might take a little bit longer and it might take a little bit more thought, you end up with a business like mine where I can go on vacation. I can drive a nice car. I can live in a nice home. I can change countries and immigrate and do whatever I want to do. I am not beholden to my business. My business grows as a direct reflection of the choices that I make in pursuit of the life that I want to live. And that's where I would like to get all of you to. So in practice, it's actually quite simple. It comes down to creating an awareness and then also making a few very important definitions. So the awareness piece comes down to being conscious of the decisions that you're making. And the definitions piece comes down to actually defining the things that you want. So where that comes to is a question that I ask a lot of the people that I work with. How would you define success? At what stage would you consider yourself to be successful? Now, most people will use a financial number. Most people will use a number of clients. Maybe it comes down to number of followers. Whatever it is, you have to be able to define success, because unless you can define success, you're essentially trying to put a destination into a GPS and you don't know what that is. You know, you can't calculate your path to getting somewhere if you don't know where you're going. And then once you've made that definition, all you have to do is reverse engineer it. One of the best examples of this is I see it very often with younger coaches when they attend in-person events. They will go to the event being surrounded by, just killers in business. Coaches that have been doing it for years, have massive followings, have large incomes, and they'll come back to me saying, man, I got to get to this point and then I'll fit in. But they don't actually want the things that those coaches have built. And this isn't to say that you shouldn't aim big. This isn't to say that some people want massive businesses. The idea that you can get to 100K a month just being a solopreneur, I think is a little bit misunderstood. Because in order to get to $100,000 a month, you need to be able to sell $100,000 worth of coaching, which is going to require sales calls, which is going to require administration, which is going to require back-end website work, which is going to require accounting. So it all piles up. So these coaches that are doing these large numbers typically have multiple coaches who work for them. They usually have a sales team. They usually have someone assisting in their marketing, someone assisting with their social media, typically a virtual assistant. So at that point, you are not operating as a solopreneur. You're operating a business and you have a team of individuals who you are required to pay. I have a team. I have 5 coaches who work with me. I also have Olivia who helps out with the business. We have a virtual assistant. We also have a video editor. We have a number of people helping us run our business. Now, if you want to be the leader of a team, that's fantastic, but you have to define what it is that you want. Because if you set your sights on, hey, I want to operate as a solopreneur, I want to help as many people as I can, even that right there puts a ceiling on what you can typically achieve as a solopreneur. So you need to know where you're going so that you don't choose a destination that you actually don't want to get to. The other frame that I really like is knowing when you're in a season of push and when you're in a season of pull. And what that means is there is a time and a place where you're going to say yes to everything, and there's a time and a place where you're going to need to say no and focus on other things. Initially, as you're operating your business, you're going to get a lot of opportunities. You should say yes to as many of those as possible so that you can accumulate experience. But as you get more experience, you'll come to realize what you want and what you don't want. And when you have that experience and you have that clarity, you can make better decisions on what you say yes to. One of my favorite things to remember is that when I'm saying yes to something, I'm also saying no to something else. And when I understand the potential trade-offs in every decision that I make, it makes it a lot easier to know which things I should be saying yes to and which things I should be saying no to. Because if you keep saying yes to things that you don't actually want, you're going to end up with a business that you didn't actually want to build. If and when you do get to that point, and you're in a position where you're feeling overwhelmed, having a ton of anxiety, maybe you're just feeling a lot of friction. That's an alarm because your body keeps score. I've been here a lot. I've been at this overwhelmed stage a lot. One of my toxic traits is that I like to take on more than I can handle. But that comes down to a life philosophy that chasing sustainability just isn't sustainable, because nothing is sustainable until it's sustainable. You have to consistently push yourself outside your comfort zone. What I have learned over time is that I know in which directions I'm supposed to push. So if you're feeling that friction, if you're feeling that anxiety, most likely it's a lack of alignment. So revisiting those definitions that we talked about earlier. What is the definition of success? What type of life do I want to be living? And am I headed in the direction towards that? Realistically speaking, if you're not, you can always course correct. I mentioned earlier about saying yes, seasons of yes and seasons of no. Well, those seasons of yes lead to a lot of connections. They lead to a lot of experience. They lead to a lot of opportunity. And when you're in positions where you need to recalculate and reposition your business, you can take advantage of a lot of those things that you said yes to and build upon them. At the end of the day, your business should be fun. You should enjoy building it, and you should enjoy the path that you're following. So if you're not having fun and your business is causing you more stress than you believe that it should, chances are it's time for a realignment. And the last thing I'll say is that this process of deciding is a daily practice. It comes down to knowing exactly what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, and how you're supposed to do it. So when you sit down at your desk, you're not just picking the most exciting thing or picking that one easy task that's going to fill up your dopamine. It's knowing that you have a direction. It's knowing that your action plan is leading you to where you want to go, and that every action that you take is a step in the right direction. Having this mindset requires you to set boundaries. And in a lot of instances, young coaches have trouble with this because they believe that if they set boundaries, they'll lose clients. Or if they say no, they'll miss out on opportunities. An opportunity missed is only valuable if it's an opportunity that you value. Remember that. That's not just a tongue twister, that's reality. If you say no to something that you don't really want, you're not missing out on anything. But you have to know what it is that you want. When you set boundaries and you hold them, people will respect you. If you're someone who constantly flexes on your boundaries, people are going to walk all over you, and you're going to end up in a position where you're not living the life that you want to live because you're beholden to the needs of other people. Now, hopefully you see the common thread here. You see the fact that everything that I'm speaking about comes down to self-awareness, comes down to auditing yourself and understanding what direction that you actually want to go and what type of life do you want to live. Auditing the things that you say yes to and naming the trade-offs to those yeses and nos out loud. Be conscious of the things that you're saying yes to and what the trade-off is if you were to say no. Then make sure to set your routine. Have your non-negotiables in place. Know what that action plan is that you need to follow as you pursue this business that you're building. And lastly, if you are feeling anxious, if you are feeling friction, don't judge yourself for it. Understand that that's just an alarm and it's your body telling you that you're misaligned and need to reevaluate your direction. Your desire to grow and help people has never been the problem. The problem is, are you building in the direction that you actually want to go? And hopefully this video helped you with that. So if you're a coach who actually wants to build a business that you're happy to operate, I'm happy to help you. Even if it's just to answer questions or hop on a free call, comment below or send me a DM on Instagram, and I would love to chat with you. I like to think that my life's journey is to help people achieve goals they didn't even think were realistic to set. And in doing so, I help people really get clear on what their expectations are, how those expectations align with their values, and how we can engineer a business or a process that will get you to the dream life that you want to live. And I know how to do it because I'm living that dream life right now. You can hear my dog snoring in the background. If you found this valuable, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one.